Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Thank you, Brother Odin. We have the confidence and the assurance that God will do it again. And Father, we want to lift up everyone in the name of Jesus who is on the platform, those who are on Facebook, on YouTube, those who are on Healing Up the Nation. And we're glad to know that you are not short in your resources. If you did it before, you can do it again. So give us the faith and the confidence in you that you're a God who can do anything and everything that is in harmony with your will. So I pray a blessing on each and every one that's on the line at this moment and those who are coming on. And I pray a blessing on our teacher and our presenter, Sister Anne-Marie Frazer. I pray, Lord, that the things that we have learned here over the past month, some of us would have incorporated them in our lives so that we can be more financially free, so that we can prepare to be of greater service to you in giving some to your kingdom, helping those who are in need and meet our own personal needs. May your Holy Spirit be the divine guide and teacher, and I pray that all financial shackles, Lord, will start to be broken. Those who are in debt, we will try to break it. Those who are establishing businesses, Lord, we will use the knowledge that we have here to start successful businesses. Those who need more income, I pray, Lord, that you will help us to use the knowledge to increase our income, whatever financial situation. We're thankful that you're able to supply all our needs according to your riches in glory. So we bless you, we praise you, we thank you, we believe you that our lives are changing as a result of this month's powerful instructions. Continue to bless Anne-Marie, we pray, in Jesus' name. Amen. I'm going to bring up my devotion now. Courtney, do you move my presentation? My devotion was there. How did it go away? No. All right, let me see something. Okay, I'm coming. Just here, my devotion. All right, preceding the main meal every evening, I give you a short devotion on some biblical financial concepts. Now, we want to remind you, we're encouraging you to give a liberal offering. I don't want to tell you how much you have received already. You would be surprised the tiny amount that we've received. We're just asking for a love offering for this powerful presentations that you've made. Take a picture of this. You could go to our website, Goshen Temple, and or you could sell it at goshentemple@gmail.com. You could send it in the mail or drop it off at Goshen. Just put Wednesday night financial series or just put financials, whatever you have. But tonight, make sure that you return thanks to God. That's one great principle of financial success. Give and it shall be given unto you. Well, give and it shall be given unto you. That's what God promises. So please take this down and use one of these means that most convenient to you to give a contribution to this ministry. All right. Tonight, I'm going to bring a thought from Dr. Luke. The financial planner, Dr. Luke says in Luke 11, verse 28 to 30, and that's the Message version. Is there any here who, planning to build a new house, doesn't first sit down and figure the cost so that you know if you can complete it? If you only get the foundation laid and then run out of money, you're going to look foolish. Everyone passing by will poke fun at you. He started something he could not finish. So Brother Luke is telling us that we need to plan our finances. We can't just leave it by chance. Is that clear enough? And we have gotten a multitude of information that can help us to become a wise financial planner. Luke is not the only one in the Bible that tells us about the importance of planning. Let's read up some more. Through wisdom, Solomon says, a house is built, and by understanding, it is established. By knowledge, financial knowledge, etc. The room shall be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. Wow, is there anybody house like that tonight? Well, let's take Proverbs 24:24 in mind. Here again, another one in Proverbs 21, verse 5. Folks, I'm telling you, Proverbs has so much to say about planning. The plans of the diligent lead surely to plenty. Here are the plans. But those of everyone who is hasty surely to poverty. Those of us who buy and transact off impulse spending. Impulse spending is a big problem. Solomon said, no, we must plan diligently, and it will lead to plenty. How does that relate to you this evening? Are you planning diligently? Chapter 27, verse 12 of Proverbs says, a prudent man foresees the evil and hides himself. The simple passes on and are punished. So we need to know what's happening in our society and ask God for wisdom and make proper preparation so that we do not suffer when the time comes. So that was from the Bible here, some things from the writing of Ellen White, or prophetess. She says, once a week, each is brought face to face with the doings of the past week. The income that he might have had if he had been economical, and the means that he does not have because of indulgence. So again, she wants us to be economical, beloved. That's Adventist Home 369. We're going to read 375 now. You ought to be careful that your expenses do not exceed your income. Bind about your wants. That sounds like he's saying to me that we need to budget. We need to budget. Man, I'm telling you, we're so blessed. We have this information in the Bible and in the spirit of prophecy. A financial plan is used to account for all income and expenses. In other words, it's a budget. Ellen White confirmed the importance of creating a budget when she wrote, all should learn how to keep accounts. You hear that? All, not only the CPA. All, I mean, everybody online here this evening should learn how to keep accounts. Some neglect this work as non-essential, but this is wrong. All expenses should be accurately stated. All right, folks. So remember now, the Bible and the spirit of prophecy encourage us to plan our finances. Just don't leave it to impulse and to chance. Keep accounts. Every month we should know where the money has gone to. You see, when we have a plan, this is my last part now, and summarizing what was done, it helps us to live within our means. It helps you to spend money wisely. It helps you to reach your financial goal. It prepares you for financial emergencies. It helps you to develop wise financial habits. It helps you to eliminate the main problem in financial difficulty, which is overspending. It helps you to avoid the management by crisis mode. And finally, when you plan, you can also plan to give to the cause of God. A part of it should be the cause of God. And Timothy was talking to some rich people in his church. He said, laying up in store for themselves a good foundation against the time to come, that they may lay hold on eternal life. Our finances can have eternal impact effect. When we give to win souls to the Lord, that's what it does. So throughout this whole series, it's not only us going to clear up ourselves, but remember that we need to give to the cause of God also. All right. We're happy to have our financial educator here, Sister Anne-Marie Frazer. We all know her now. Please remember now just to send out the link. Call somebody up. This is the final session. All right, Sister Frazer, your time now.
All right. Thank you so very much, Dr. Daly. Hey, everyone. Hope you guys had a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday today. And I hope that the Lord is blessing you, blessing your finances, and blessing your families. And we just want to thank the members, the administrators, the board members of the Goshen Temple Seventh-day Adventist Church for creating this platform, for giving us the opportunity to meet in this fashion on this Wednesday evening to talk a little bit more about our finances. We have been doing that for the full month of May. So for those of you who are worshiping online tonight, and maybe you may be picking this YouTube video up later on, we just want you to know that you will learn a lot. You want to take a few moments to get some writing instruments. Make sure you have a pen, a notepad, so that we can go right into tonight's topic. So give me a second here while I bring up the presentation. And again, it's great to see all of you. I have been blessed just being here and just worshiping with you over the past month. And let's see what we are going to cover tonight. And as it says there, we are going to talk about principles of estate planning. Dr. Daly, we did not talk about the topic at all tonight. And look at what you shared with us tonight. And ladies and gentlemen, you know, we are people of God, and thank God that God had a plan for us, so that when our first parents, Adam and Eve, sinned in the Garden of Eden, we were not left to wonder what was going to happen to us, but God himself had already instituted a plan so that we can have salvation. So we are talking about estate planning tonight. I think it's fitting to end with this topic since we covered so many other things before. We talked about retirement planning, which is a little different from estate planning. And we also talked about starting up and planning for a small business. We do understand that, you know, there are really two families, you know, in the country. Either you're going to be an employee and work the dreams of someone else, or you will consider at some point to also have your own plan B, your own small business, be an entrepreneur, and have an opportunity to have, you know, unlimited income. So we talked about that. We talked about the various types of life insurance, and we covered, you know, just so many things that I know that you benefited from. What we want to do is kind of wrap up with these principles of estate planning. And it's a little different because we are Christians. Of course, you know, people who are not Christians plan a little differently from us, right? So I am so excited about this topic tonight. We want to go right into it. For those of you visiting with us for the first time, we talked about this. So I want to make sure I cover this screen here, because we must understand that there is a level of stewardship as a Christian that we must understand. The number one stewardship principle is that God owns everything. He is the owner, even what might be in our bank account with our name, with our social security number. But we must understand that God is the one that owns everything in this world, and even what he has allowed to pass through our hands, he owns it as well. The number two principle of stewardship is that we should understand that we are just stewards. We are just passing through for a little while. And so what God has placed in our hands, we want to make sure that we use it in a special way. And as you can see here, taken from one of my favorite books, Testimonies, Volume 3, page 399, God is going to provide us with wealth, provide us with extra. In fact, he has given us so many promises. We don't need to repeat it again tonight, but we understand that he expects us to be responsible with what he's putting into our hands. And meaning to say that when God blesses us with wealth, we must use it to take care of ourselves and our loved ones. That's number one. taking care of your family should never have to scramble or wonder if you're no longer here, what is going to happen to them? How are they going to pay the bills? How are the children going to go through college? Like, these are things that God expects, his people, Christian people, to take care of. So we want to understand that he will give us wealth, but we must use it to first take care of ourselves and also our families. And number two, take care of the less fortunate. The Bible tells us that the poor we will always have with us, and we must set ourselves up in such a way that we can be a blessing to someone who is less fortunate than we are. And then, of course, number three, we must remember the ministry. We must remember the work of God. Remember that most of us that are Christians, not just Seventh-day Adventist Christians, but, people who believe in Jesus Christ altogether, we belong to various churches, various religions. And remember, we walked at some point into a building, into a church building. Someone had to make some kind of preparation for that to happen so that we can be there to worship. So we want to also remember that as we plan, as we think of, principles of stewardship and estate planning, we want to also plan for the work of God to continue. I wanted to make sure that I put that into our minds first. So let's talk about the life cycles that we need to understand. That there are 4 life cycles that each one of us will go through in our lives. Cycle number 1 is the foundation stage. This is the stage where, when most of us were younger, and if there are younger people listening tonight, some of you might be at the foundational stage, which is the first stage of your life cycle. This is the stage where the light bulb goes up and you make some kind of decision as to how you are going to financially take care of yourself. In other words, do you want to be a teacher? Do you want to be an attorney? You want to be an accountant like me, or you want to be like a pastor? What are you going to do in your life that will help you to earn an income? That is the first stage of life cycle. Then we want to look at the second stage here, which is the big stage. Most of us, that is where we fall right now. That is the amassment stage. So this is the stage where, let's say you decide that you want to be a doctor. Okay, this is how I'm going to earn my income, doing this particular trade, taking this particular subject up in school, and this is how I'm going to be paid. Once you start being paid on a job or in a business, then you want to amass your earnings. You want to accumulate. This is the stage when you are growing your income. And for some of us, this is such an important stage, but we don't realize it, right? We tend to spend a lot, like the pastor says, you have to budget. You have to think about what you're doing with this income, because this is the time when you want to grow, invest, and become as wealthy as you can, as the Lord promised that he will, give to you, right? Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over. This is what he has promised. The third stage of the retirement is the retirement stage. This is the stage where for some of us on tonight and some of us listening, we have already retired. We are not working anymore. So, whatever you have amassed in that second stage, whatever you have accumulated, now it has to last you throughout your retirement. And a lot of people get to this stage so unprepared, with lack of planning, with lack of education, with lack of not knowing what all the options were that you had during, your amassment stage. You get to the point where, man, I want to retire, but I can't. Why I cannot? Because I'm just unprepared. I'm going to run out of money. And so sometimes some of us, we get to that retirement stage, and we work so much until we work ourselves to get sick. We don't want to see that happen to our members, to those of you who are online and you're listening tonight. But what is the topic for tonight? Okay, as we talk about principles of estate planning, It is the fourth stage. That is where we are going to focus tonight. That's the legacy stage. That's the stage where whatever you have left over as you have lived your life, okay, that is now going to be passed on. That is the stage where we are no longer here. Or we either, God has, put us to sleep, or we become incapacitated. We can't earn any more income. We can't make any more decisions. And so we are now in that last stage of life. And for some of us, we are no longer here. That's the legacy stage. And this is what we're going to focus on tonight when we talk about principles of estate planning. So what is estate planning? If I had to ask you the question, right? So, it's a whole plan. It's a whole plan that you're looking at. So where is your money going to come from? That's your first stage. How much money are you going to amass up? Are you going to accumulate during the second stage? And what are you going to spend during your retirement years? And then at that last stage, that legacy stage, where is your money going to go? It is also the stage where you are deciding in your mind, who is that person that you're going to leave your assets to? So that person, when you leave that asset to them, they will have it distributed. So you're also thinking, where is it going to be distributed? So you see, all of that is estate planning, a little bit different from retirement planning. I hope you got it. So really, when you think about distribution now, there are only 3 places that your money is going to go. You got to understand that. And that's the reason for planning, right? Because you want to make sure that it goes where it can benefit what God inspires you. Remember, everything that you get through life, God is the one who put it into your hands. So normally, your assets, your money, it may not only be liquid assets, but you may have property, right? You may have, assets that are not readily turned into cash, but it normally will go, first of all, to your family, secondly, to charity, okay? And that must be with intention, because a lot of us we do nothing, or we leave everything to our kids. We don't intentionally say, let me look at the church of God, okay? And then if we do absolutely nothing and we don't plan, some of our assets that God has given us is definitely going to be going to the government. Those are the only 3 places, my friends, my brothers, my sisters. So therefore, I kind of felt like this would be the topic that we want to end with. This would be the topic that we want to give some thought to, because for most of us, we just don't do anything, right? Why do we want to plan for our estate? We want to avoid the potholes of life, because these potholes can just take away, all of your substance if you're not careful. We shared on this platform before. You can go back and look at the video. We talked about getting out of debt and how the society is designed to take everything that we have, especially taxes. Over 50% of what we earn going into taxes. So, planning your estate and taking the time to figure all of this out helps you to avoid losing money, okay? Avoid these potholes. So you see here, estate tax. That is a really big tax, right? And for wealthy people, they make sure that they plan their estate, because who wants to give 50%? We understand just by reading, just by going on Google and researching. You could look at Michael Jackson, you could look at Prince, you could look at Whitney Houston, you can look at a lot of people who were celebrities, and they were talented celebrities, and they have passed on. But do you know that the estate that they left behind, their music, their movies that are still playing, that people are still enjoying, their estate is still earning an income up to today, and have to pay these estate taxes. So we want to as we plan, you know, whoever is working along with you, you want to consider all these things. Capital gains tax, very, very another high tax. If you have a short-term capital gain, right, you are taxed as ordinary income, as if this is money that you make from wages from a job. That's what we call ordinary income, right? You're taxed between 10% to 37% on a short-term capital gain. And some of you are getting involved in investments that can create a short-term capital gain for you. So for example, you might be investing in Bitcoins or in stocks, in bonds, and you're earning income from it. It's called capital gains tax. And then, of course, there's the long-term capital gain. If you own that stock for more than a year, it's a long-term, and you can pay all up to 20%, you know, on those taxes. So you want to avoid these things. You want to avoid probate. That's all of the important things that you want to think about as you go through your estate journey. The big one I have here for you is to avoid Satan's traps. Estate planning can help you to do that, because when you think about, you know, wealthy people, you know, think about what they really do. Number one, they live in, I would think, in the mansions, in the most expensive homes. They drive the most expensive cars. They look to impress others, right? As well as some of them are selfish, not all of them, because they also give a lot to charity. You know, they're philanthropists and things like that. We now, when I say us, I mean church members. We don't have a whole lot to do certain things, but we do want to make sure that we avoid trying to live up to impress other people and spending our money in such a way that when the legacy stage comes, we don't have anything much to leave going forward. So these are some of the potholes that you want to avoid. This is what the Bible says in the book of Proverbs, chapter 13, verse 22. It says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Think about that. Are we good people? Ask yourself that question. And hopefully the answer is yes. And if we are good people, do we have children? And if the answer is yes, do they have children? So if we are God's people and we are good people, we should be thinking of leaving an inheritance for our children, also our grandchildren. But look at it, but the sinner's wealth is laid up for the righteous. Just think about this. God is not going to lay up wealth to put in the hands of those of us who might be unfaithful. So we need to think about this. Are we living up to everything that the Lord has, you know, bestowed on us? Because he wants us, through the Lord Jesus Christ, to be righteous so that he can pass on the wealth of the sinners unto us. This is like such an amazing text that I think it just should encourage us to think about planning our estate. Here are some of the goals of planning your estate. You want to maximize the amount of money that you can leave, okay, at that stage, so you can transfer it to your heirs, as well as to the church, as well as, you know, to ministries and things like that. You want to increase the value of your total estate while you are accumulating. You do not want to, let's say you're making $80,000 a year this year, but next year you're making 75,000 and your income just keeps going down. No, everybody wants their income, their assets, their estate to keep going up. The older you get, you want to increase the value of that estate. So planning helps you to accomplish that, because now everything that you're doing with your earnings, you're doing it with intention. You are planning with goals. You're setting goals for yourself, right? You want to be able to assess whether you are on track for retirement. That is also part of your planning. So if you're 60 years old, if you're 55 years old, you're listening to me, you know you're going to be retiring around 66 and a half, around 70 years old. You should be setting something up now. Do not wait, okay? also, estate planning has to do with you setting up a will. It has to do with you setting up a trust. It also has to do with you making sure that you have a budget, that that budget is balanced, and that every cent that you can think about that you're spending it with some form of intention, so that the value of your estate keeps going up. Those are the goals of estate planning. Let's talk about this will here. It is something that a lot of us talk about getting a will, but we just fail to do it, right? And so what is a will? It's really important. It helps you through this estate planning phase, okay? Well, it is your voice after you're no longer here. After a person becomes incapacitated, a person passes away, but their voice speaks on when they're no longer here. I remember the guy Steve Jobs, that was his name, yes. He was the one that, invented this iPhone. Imagine, right? Through Apple, this iPhone, this money maker here, a little phone in your back pocket that you can actually do what? You can look at a movie if you want. You can send a scan if you want. You can send an email. You can read your emails. You can do everything. You can make a phone call. You can do so much with this little thing. And after Steve Jobs passed away, the talk was, is Apple going to go down? Apple hasn't gone down, right? Because why? He was able to have his voice, the company that he put so much into, that he started and so on, to continue on. And that is what estate planning is all about. So you want to be able to transfer ownership of your assets when you pass away, okay? And with a will, that is what a will does. And also the court supervises a will. So you may have to think about, well, do I want to do a will only, or do I also want to do a trust, right? Because as we go on, you will see that a will is something that must go through what we call probate, or goes through court, before the person who you leave as the executor of that will could actually make sure that your wishes, even though you're no longer here, is carried out. So what is the purpose of having this will, right? Number one, it cancels previous wills that you may have written. I was reading today, just to share with you a little bit, for those of us who are on here, Seventh-day Adventists, those of you who may be listening online, and we know who Ellen G. White was, right? And what her life and her legacy meant for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And she actually had at least 4 wills. I was able to get my hand on all 4 of them. So we understand that the last will that she wrote, which was in 12, right? In 1912, we know that she passed away in 1915. And in that will, I was looking here, just reading a few things here. It was really amazing, some of the things that she was able to say. This is my voice. I'm no longer here, but this is what I want to see happen. And so all the previous wills, the last one from 1912 actually replaced the former 3. But listen to this here. Okay, she requested that half of the net proceeds, we know what net proceeds are, right? From the royalties of the sale of her published books, and we know how many books there were, right, that God gave her as the spirit of prophecy. She said it should be divided equally in 5 different directions. Listen to this: to support the aged, to support the infirm, the sick people, Seventh-day Adventist ministers and missionaries and their families. Just think about how she was thinking, even though I'm no longer going to be there, this is what I want to see happen. Number 2, to develop the medical missionary enterprise in foreign lands, not only in the United States. Number 3, to translate publications, the circulation of my books and writings in foreign languages. And I think that the White Estate has been doing such a great job in making sure that these books are published in various languages. And number 4, the distribution of her books to the poor. Isn't that something? 1/5 of this money from the sale, the proceeds of the sale of the books, to go to distribute to help the poor. And number 5, to educate the Black people in the United States. I tell you, if she did not have that will, who is to say that this was going to be done? So we have a responsibility, not just to plan, but to make sure that our voice, is spoken even after we are no longer here. So to bequeath your assets, to direct the payments of debt, these are the purpose, all of these are the purposes why you want to have a will. Maybe you want to make sure that your funeral bills are paid and the burden is not left on the church, right? So you want to designate the people who will serve. So these are the reasons why you want to consider that, why you want to have a will. Take a look at this. Let's just read this together, right? To name beneficiaries who would not receive benefits unless there was a will. So for example, your senior parents, children with special needs. A lot of times, accidents happen, you're no longer here suddenly, people didn't expect it, right? But you have a child with special needs. Did you make provision for that child? Right? To make sure, like I said before, that something goes for the work of God, to name a guardian. What if something happens and you're no longer here? You have little kids, dependent children. Do you want them to grow up with, let's say you have 2 sets of family, from a broken marriage or something? What's going to happen? Are they going to be, are your children going to go to Christians and grow up in an Adventist setting or an Adventist home? Or are they going to be in the world? Like, these are things that you have to think about, and you want to put your thoughts and your desires down. Do not be, I would say, like other people who think, because we're talking about a will, we're going to die. That is not true, right? Because we are talking about the will, it doesn't mean that you're going to die. There's a lot of older people who think that way. And I know this because, I am a professional, a licensed professional in several different states on life insurance. And sometimes when I try to talk to someone about life insurance, they say, oh, no, I'm not calling this on me. I'm not going to die now. So because we are talking about a will, my friends, doesn't mean that you're going to pass away. Your life is in the hand of God, but you want to be prepared. You want to leave things in a good way if for some reason you're no longer here. So you want to be able to name the executor or the executrix of your will, the person that you trust while you're alive, while you have your good senses, the person who is going to be able to have that morality within them to, do the things that they know that you wanted to do. Okay. Here are some of the reasons why we procrastinate on getting a will. It's the number one reason. We say that we are busy. We are too busy to do it. That's the number one reason that most people will tell you, right? So we are very busy. We get up every day and we go to work, and after work, we may have a meeting, and after a meeting, we get back home, and the next day we repeat the same thing, and we do the same thing every week. We do it every month. We do it every year until something happens, and we leave everybody's wondering, did I set up anything for college for my children? Or do I have to now go on GoFundMe and beg for money so that my kids can go to school? Or do I leave my kids to just fend for themselves? So we're too busy to do what is very, very important that God is telling us that we need to do. For the second reason why people procrastinate on a will is that they said that they have too little property. A lot of people think that, if I have a big mansion, if I have a lot of money in the bank and so on, yes, I may need a will, but I don't have anything, I don't have much, right? But you don't know the little that you have now. You have no clue what that little will become in the future. And that's the reason why you still, even though with the little, you make sure that you take care of your will. People say it's too expensive. A will can cost anywhere between maybe $200 to $500. Yeah, that's what an attorney can cost, but can charge. But if you do have the money, think about this, right? How expensive is it going to be for you if you don't have one, or for your family? if you don't have one. So you want to compare how expensive it is not having a will to how expensive it is to get one. And I can tell you $300 to $500, it's worth it for you to look into it. There are other things that you can do. You could contact us, but, I recommend that you work with an attorney. But if you cannot really, really kind of do that, you can also contact us, contact your conference, and we will find a way to help you. If this is the year that you say you're going to do this, we will find a way to help you do it. Okay. Some people don't like legal documents. They don't want to read it. They don't want to look at the fine line. They think it's just too much. They cannot understand it. Well, the church is here to help you. That's why we're here. Get in touch with your conference. There's a department that deals with this. Someone will help you to kind of maneuver some of these legal documents if that's how you feel, right? People say it's the future. I don't know what the future is going to hold, so I'm just not going to do it right now. I don't plan to die. These are really excuses that we want to help you to get over tonight in what we are talking about. We want to help you to get over that. We want you to do what is right. So let's just do a quick recap before we go into the next big topic that has to do with estate planning. So again, whatever property you have, you can look here and you can see what I'm talking about. So you may have cash, you may have gold, you may have silver, you may have stocks and bonds, whatever you have. You may have a piece of land in another country. Wherever it is, it's all your property, right? So when you make this will, you want to sit down and decide before anything happens to you. I know sometimes people wait till the last minute and then something happened to them, and then their family is trying to scramble to figure out how can we get a will done, when it might just be a little bit too late, because maybe the person, they're in a coma. They just can't do it right now. So now is the time to do it. So all of the property, you will say, okay, this is what is going to go to this one, to that one. This is what I want to see done, right? But when you do pass away at that legacy stage, this will has to go through probate court. That's what we call probate. It costs, there are fees for the court, but there are also fees for attorneys and so on. And the court will assign, or approve the administrator or the executor of this particular will. That person, once the court agrees on that, this person now is going to be the person that will gather all these assets that you have here. The house, are we going to sell it? How are we going to distribute it? Things like that. So they will gather all the assets, but first they will make sure that all of your bills are paid. They will report to the court what they have done. And then, of course, after all these bills are paid, the taxes, make sure your last tax return has been filed and paid and so on. And then, the distribution, either going to your beneficiaries, which we say, can be your family, as well as in conjunction with your family, whatever ministries that you may want to support. I want to breathe a moment here. So I want to ask you, because I'm going to go into another big topic here, and I want you to maybe jot down any questions that you may have, right? We're not going to take the questions now, but you may forget. So I want to ask you to just jot down, take a moment, write it down. So when we come back at the end, we are able to see how best that we can answer your questions. All right, let's go now into the trust. Many of you have heard of a trust. You either listen to it on TV, you listen to it on social media, you read about it, and you just never understood exactly what it is and what it does. So I think that that's an important topic for us here also. So a trust is a legal entity, okay? It's a little bit different from how we talk about a will, because the will is like a document, right? Paper. You type up where you want to see happen with everything that you have. The trust, however, has to be legally formed. So you want to work with an attorney to get this done, right? So this legal entity now, the trust, can own the assets that you have right now. So you have a house, a building, piece of land, whatever it is, real estate, stocks, bonds, gold, silver, whatever you have, cryptocurrencies, whatever, right? All of what you have, your assets, can now be transferred over into this entity, which is called a trust. So the trust can own assets. The trust may very well have to pay taxes, right? Because just how as a personal individual person, when you file your individual tax return, you will file a form 1040. Most of you, this is a IRS tax return, okay? I'm not talking about the state right now. And most of you know that you file a form 1040 in order to file your annual tax return. But if you have a trust, then that trust would have to file a form 1041, right? So individual 1040, your trust 1041. If that trust earns income of $600 or more. So somebody, when you're no longer here, right, or even while you are here and alive and well, and you have your trust, your living trust. So what happens now is that if that trust earns more than $600 in the year, that trust must file a tax return. So you want to keep that in mind. Don't just run out and just form a trust without knowing what the rules are. Okay, so it is a private agreement. I kind of like that one a lot because with your will is a public document, right? So anyone can go down to the court or the county clerk office or wherever these wills are, and they can get a copy of your will, just as how, I was able to get a copy of the 4 wills of Ellen G. White and actually be able to read it. So your will is public. Other people, kind of know, you're no longer here, but this is all what you say you want to do. So, because the court is going to publish that will. So the trust, on the other hand, it's a private document. The world is not going to see that. The world is not going to get their hands on that. And so your wishes can be carried out privately, and that's very important. And the trust will also have beneficiaries. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So let's look at some of the, I don't want to say guidelines, but some of the important things that you want to understand about the trust as well. So when you form this living trust, the trust is revocable. This just simply means that you're not just writing it in stone, like the Medes and the Persians, like it cannot be changed, right? It's a revocable trust, which means you can change your mind. Even though you may put the trust in place, you can turn around, you can add to it. You see, it says additions and withdrawals. So let's say you own 3 or 4 houses and you put it all in the trust, and you have a reason for doing that, right? You want to get the value of that asset off your name, because it might be possible that if you own a house and it's worth $1 million, you're not even entitled to get Medicaid, right? Because you can't really own more than $3,000 if you expect to get Medicaid later on in life. So a lot of seniors would make sure that their assets, their property is placed in the trust, so it's no longer in their name. So you may have a valid reason for doing this, but let's say you put all of the property in the trust and then you realize, you know what, I have a child that, all your children are special, of course, but I have a child that is really, really so dependable, things like that. And I feel I want to give this particular property to this particular child. Then you can change your mind and you can withdraw assets out of the trust. Just keep in mind with that. The trust can have professional management where you have someone that will manage it. For most trusts, that living trust that is formed, the person who is forming the trust, normally what they would do is they would list themselves as the trustee, and they will manage the trust themselves because they're still in good mind, they're still healthy. You can do your trust now, it doesn't mean you're going to die or anything, and you can be the person who is managing that trust. If you decide to do that and be your own trustee, you want to make sure that you put a phrase in there that will name 1 or 2 or even 3 people as successor trustees, right? In case you pass away suddenly, there is a successor trustee that will take over from you, because while you are in the right frame of your mind and everything, you could continue to do that. You could continue to manage your own trust, but make sure also think about your health. If something happens to you, you may want to consider, um, how are my medical bills going to be paid? Or, you know, do I want to see, myself, um, being resuscitated, or do I want to donate my organs, or like just a whole lot of things that you can think about. And you want to make sure that when you do set up this trust document here, and you put whatever you want to see for yourself, you want to also consider to take care of your health. So whoever is going to administer this trust, who the trustee will be, will understand that this trust is supposed to take care of you. All right. So keep that in mind. It's not just something where, I have this trust, my land is in here, the house is in here, sell it off and give it to so. What about if you continue to live very long, but you're sick? You want to make sure that you think about yourself when you write up the document of the trust. Mrs. White did that as well. How she was supposed to be taken care of and things like that. So the trust is really confidential. It avoids probate, because it doesn't have to go through court like the will has to go through the court, right? So the trust can take effect the moment you pass away. The trustee can start to administer that trust. And the trust can also have a settling time. So you can decide, like, how long do you want this trust to really, perpetuate or continue on, for yourself. I remember I had a client, he passed away now. He was not Seventh-day Adventist, but he was just such a smart, such a brilliant, such a wise person. And he had made sure that he set up this trust, and he had me read it because he thought my opinion was important. But, I read it, but I thought it was good what he did. But he knew that his children, they were okay. They were really, really okay. Like, one of them was a New York City judge, another one headed up a university and things like that. They did well for themselves. They already had their own homes and so on and so on. But he also knew that the building that he had, that they wanted to sell it, because as he got older, they kept on saying, Dad, why are you holding on to this building? Just sell it. Just sell it. Go, you already have another house that you're living in. But you see, he understood the importance of real estate. He understood that. And he wanted to make sure that this real estate actually moved on, passed on to the next generation, to the grandchildren. And so he set up his trust in such a way that the grandchildren was going to benefit from this trust, and the children was not going to be allowed, as soon as he passed away, to just go sell it and just got rid of it. He understood how difficult it is, especially in the state of New York, in Brooklyn. You own a piece of real estate. The moment you give it up, you're not getting it back. It's very difficult, and it costs so much for you to be able to buy another piece. And so he understood that. So all of these are the things that that you want to consider as you think about, setting up this trust. Let's kind of look at this a little bit here. So whatever property you have right here, whether it be your cash, your stock, whatever you have, your land, your house, right? Now you no longer own it, okay? So you want to take all these assets off your name, and you transfer the deed or the name of these assets into your trust, whatever you call your trust, okay? And so once you transfer that, you don't own it anymore, but the trust owns it, okay? Notice that it's not going through the courts, which is a little different from what we covered with the will. So once the trust owns all these property, someone has to manage it. You can be the trustee managing it, but make sure, as I say, that you have a successor or two successors after you who's going to manage the assets that is in here. This trust can earn income, because if you put a building in here, the deed is now in the name of the trust. Now you got to make sure, though, that you take the deed off your name, not just have the trust document written up, but you never made sure that you went down to buildings department and change the name on the deed to the name of the trust. This happened recently to one of my clients where, they moved the family came together and created a trust so that the property that was owned by their dad uh, went into the trust. But guess what? It was called the court, not that it had to go to court, but it was deemed an empty trust because even though they said that the property in the writing of the trust, they say that the trust owns this property and this block, whatever, but they never went down to the buildings department and actually changed the deed. So at the end of the day, when my client passed away, the family actually did not get the building and so on because it's a long story. I don't want to go personal. But anyway, make sure, what I'm trying to say is make sure that when you write up the trust and you say now that the trust owns your building or your home, make sure that you get down to the buildings department and you get an attorney if you have to, and change the name on the deed to the name of the trust. Only then is the property actually transferred over into the trust. All right, I hope you got that point. So now here's the beautiful thing about the trust. You can now use the assets. So this trust can pay you an income. If you have a building in here and you collecting, say you have a 4-family, a 6-family, you're collecting $10,000, $20,000 a month in rent. Just think about that. This trust is bringing in an income, and this income can pay you. Not only you, it can pay your spouse. Not only your spouse, you can decide like how long. Okay, there are some states that will cap how long you want this trust to continue to live on. Okay, but for the most part, you can benefit even though the property is no longer in your name. You can live here. You can set it up for one life, which is your life. You can set it up for 2 lives. You can say, after this one life, then my spouse will also live here until he passes away or she passes away. And then you can even say, then the next generation will benefit from this property. And after that, now, when the trust comes to an end, then the trustee, they will then say, okay, let's sell off what they call the corpus, right? The building itself, right? How are we going to distribute the income during the years of the trust, but also at the end of the trust, when the corpus is sold off, the principal, who is going to be getting this? Is it going to be for the Lord's work? If all the family is gone, the generations are gone, who is going to benefit from that? So these are some of the things that that you want to think about with the trust. It's very important. And as I close here, because we want to leave some time for questions, I want you to just think about, the best legacy that you can leave, right? And as we see here in John 14:3, the Lord says, I go to prepare a place for you. He says, I will come back. And when I come back, right, he says, you will have a place with him. And so the best legacy you can really leave, right, for your children, and you want to pray for your family, for the ministry. You want to pray that God will help you to gain as much income as you can while you're alive, to make the wise decisions while you have the opportunity, so that when you are no longer here, whatever you have will be distributed at the right time to the right beneficiary, right, for the right reasons, and make sure that you also pass on this type of knowledge to the next generation, okay, so that they can do the same. All right, so I want to thank you so very much, everyone, for listening. I want you to think about this as an activity that you will privately do for yourself, right? We do this in the church, but we're not in the church right now. But think about one step that you are willing to take right now, okay, to start improving your estate plan. Don't say that you don't have enough money. Each one of us have an estate. I shared with you guys before, one of my clients that her nephew, when he was born, his mom died in childbirth. And this kid inherited $1 million from a wrongful lawsuit that, that the hospital faced. But he came across this $1 million when he turned 18. Sometimes we just don't know. It could be an accident. It could be something, right? And monies are awarded. You don't know. So you think about this. What step are you going to take to improve your estate plan? That's the question that I leave you with. I also ask you to, those of you who are social media savvy and so on, I'm just trying to get there as a humble servant of God. So I ask you to follow me on Instagram as I try to do that as well. It has been a joy just being here for the 5 weeks. And Pastor, we do have a little bit of time left if you want to take questions at this time.
Yes, and just remind us of your contact information.
Yes, it's right there on the screen. My cell phone number is there. My Instagram is there, Frazer. You can follow me there and you can call me. You have my cell phone. My website is there. Okay. You can also get any one of my books on my website as well.
Right. This was very informative. We want to thank you, Anne-Marie, and it's not the hearers of the law that will be justified, but the doers. Faith without action is dead. So we just want you folks to maybe if you meet with your family members, meet with a group in church, because when they come together and share, it can be more powerful. So again, I was blessed, and I reflect on my own situation and life, and by God's grace, I'm going to apply more of these things. Just before we ask Anne-Marie to come, I want to remind you that we've been asking for you, if you were really blessed this day, to give us a thank you offering. And when I asked my treasurer what we got, I was surprised. Unbelievable. It was unbelievable. So you have another chance tonight to give a thank you offering if you were blessed by this, if your children will be blessed by this. And here are 4 ways that you can give. You could go to the GoshenTemple.org, and remember, to go to Zelle GoshenTemple@gmail.com. But you have to specify what you're giving this thing for. But let's put Wednesday night Faith and Financial Series, Wednesday night FF. But just make sure we know you're giving it towards this financial situation here. Or you could send it in the mail, the check in the mail. Or if you're a Brooklynite, you pass by Brooklyn, there's a mailbox right there that you could drop your, don't put any cash in there now, your whatever, your letter in. So please take this out now, and when I speak to my children tomorrow, I want to see it increase at least 20-fold, okay? Because we have been greatly blessed. So let me leave it for another second. Please take a copy of it and give towards that. Givers gain, givers gain. Remember that. All right, now, dear Courtney, are you there? Hands can be raised, or let me see what's in the chat, Anne-Marie. Can you see the chat, Anne-Marie?
Okay, let me look at it also, yes.
Is it too late for a 60-year-old to start to prepare for the legacy?
Okay. Good question. It is never too late. It's a little bit late in terms of how much money you want to accumulate, but a person at 60 years old may already have something. And so it's not too late to do your will. It's not too late to do your trust. It's never too late. And you might be 60, but maybe you would have longevity where you may live to 75, 80, 90. So it is definitely not too late to do something. You don't want to do just do nothing because you might be at 60.
Right. Any other question? Raise your hands. We'll take the questions, or please put it in the chat.
I don't know if you can hear me. I am on the phone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, the question is, Sister Fraser, I missed the reasons for Ellen White's
Will.
will. Yes. There were 4 of them. I got number 2. I need to hear number 2, please. 1 was to help the aged.
Oh, I see. Okay. You mean what she said to do with the proceeds?
Yes.
All right. So number 2 was to develop the medical missionary enterprises in France.
Okay, very well. Thank you so much.
And as you talk about that medical missionary enterprises, Northeastern Conference is having a big medical missionary training, Marie, from the 7th or the 6th of July to the 14th of July, right there at the Mamres Day Church in Brooklyn, New York. You could call the conference 291-718-291-8006 and ask for help ministry. 718-291-8006 and become a part of fulfilling one of the stuff that the Lord put in our will. It's going to be great, beloved. The healthier you are, the better you will be able to contribute to God and to your family. All right. Anybody else?
Question, Pastor. And Sister Fraser. The question is: having your property kept into the family, is this considered to be a minus or perhaps a plus? Having your property kept in the family, is this considered a minus?
Is the person asking pass on the property to a family member as opposed to putting the property in a trust?
No, the person didn't mention. I think I can answer both. Both.
Okay. Yeah, some people have to be very careful because you may own the property, right? And sometimes people just say, like I shared with you before, there was a member of my church, my former church, that owned a building in Brooklyn. And when her husband died, she just kind of felt like being a senior, that she wanted to add her daughter to the deed. She wanted to keep the property in the family. But what she actually did by doing that was made a large gift to her daughter. So at the end of the year, when she got that tax bill, it almost gave her a heart attack because a building that is worth, $800,000, when you make the gift, you're the person, the grantor, who is making the gift to someone. You're the one that have to pay the tax. So you gave away $400,000 by actually adding the family member's name onto the deed. And people sometimes are not aware of that. It is good when you're ready to make these type of decisions that you actually talk with your financial people that is working along with you. So I wouldn't say that it's always a negative, but you just want to be careful that you don't get hit with taxes that you don't know about. If, however, now the building is passed on to a spouse, it just means that the spouse is going to inherit the building or the house, and inheritance taxes usually is zero. You don't pay tax on an inheritance that you inherited, particularly a spouse. So it all depends on who you're going to be leaving this for, or whether you're going to be adding their names to the deed, like that. As a senior person, if you own your house and you own the value of that house, actually, you want to be careful because you may need help if you end up in a nursing home or something. Another one of my clients, the sons had to actually sell off the house in Brooklyn in order to pay the nursing home bill after the mom passed away. And staying in a nursing home could be about $15,000 a month, so what you think you want to leave for God's work or for your family may have to be sold by the person who is administering your will, may have to sell it just to pay your bills. That has to be paid off first, So you want to discuss it. I don't think I can just say it's going to be like a negative or a positive. It could be both. And every situation is different.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And remember, folks, you can go on Goshen YouTube to look at some of these presentations, or if you're from Healing the Nations, you go on Healing the Nation Facebook page. Any more questions?
Night.
Good night.
Good night.
I have a question. If you have a will, it was executed, but it was never registered in the court. Do you have to register it in the court?
The person, the will take effect after the person passes away, right?
Mhm.
So when the person passes away, the executor, the person who you left in that will, to make sure that your wishes are, is taken care of, that person has to get that will into the court. And the court is going to approve you, the person that is left, the executor, or name somebody who's going to be the administrator. And then that person who is named by the court is going to go ahead and start to sell off the property or, pay the debts and things like that.
So you have to
Remember,
register it.
your will can be changed. So even though you write the will, it's not really in the court yet. You have it executed the right way. I didn't cover this, but there are 5 things that you want to make sure that you do for your will to be not thrown out by the court. Okay. So let me see if I could go from my head here. You want to make sure that there was no duress, like no one put a gun to your head when you actually write the will, because if the court finds that out, they're going to deem that will as no good, right? So you want to make sure that the person is of the age. You have to be what we call legal age, 18 years old and up, in order to actually perform a will, right? You also want to make sure that the person who is making the will has capacity. So in other words, that person must be in their right mind. They cannot be going through dementia and then you're running now and holding their hand and trying to get them to sign a will. So you want to make sure that this will is done while the person is in their right frame of mind. And you also want to make sure that you have the appropriate amount of witnesses, so different states may call for different amount, but I know that from what I know, New York requires 2, at least 2 witnesses. And so you want to make sure that this will is executed properly. The 2 witnesses don't have to be there at the same time, but the witnesses must sign this will in the presence of the person who is making the will. So you don't want to get the person to be on their hospital bed and they do something and then you run around to somebody else to get it signed. If the court finds that out, they'll throw that will out and the government will take over.
They'll take the money?
They will. They can't just take the money just like that, but they will take over the administration of what is going to happen. And then again, think about the church, right? If the court takes over what you have, the court is not going to give nothing to your church, nothing. They will first look at to see whether there's a spouse. If there's no spouse, then they will look for a cross. Do you have children? If there are no children, then they will look up, do you have parents who are alive? The court will do the investigations, but what all of that costs, now you're losing money because these things are not done for free. So you want to make sure that you have it, you say what you want done, and not the court deciding for you because you didn't get it done on time or you didn't execute the will properly.
Wow. And Anne-Marie, as a pastor over the years, I see so much when people don't make their will, there's so much problem it creates for the family, especially the
Okay, hold on. I'm
families
gonna
that
ask you something.
united before it's something else. Somebody said, what if I die without a will?
You try going up so you know already. Oh, yeah. So you can go by your.
What if I die without a will? That's a
Yeah.
question.
Yes. So if you die without a will, it's called you died intestate. So it just means that the court now takes over whatever you may have left to decide what's going to happen to it. And then it also means to be very careful because especially, let's say you pass away by an accident. Let's just say $2-3 million is paid out. You're no longer here. You didn't have a will. What happens to that money? You have to think about anything can happen to you. And that's the reason why you want to have it, because you don't know, even upon your death, you can, money can be paid to your estate. And so you don't want the court. The court takes over if you die without a will and you have assets. And then who files your final tax returns? Who makes sure that these things are well done? And the government is not coming back later to the estate and saying, we have these fees, we have these penalties, we have this, that, so you want your monies when God gives it to you, however it's given to you or your estate, you want it to be what you want to see happen to it.
Wow. Is there any other question?
Yeah, I have one.
All right.
What happens if you make a will in one state and you own property in another state? Do you have to make it to that state too, so that or it doesn't matter what state you make it in?
Right. So this is a really, really good question, right? And people ask, we come across this all the time. So for example, you may even have property in another country, So this is why you want to work with your attorneys, because the rules are different in different states. Okay. So, and they would look at your resident state. Where do you have your residency? So you may be resident in New York, but you may own a vacation home in Florida. So, the laws are different in these various states. And this is why when you do your will, you want to make sure that you use a company, a group of attorneys or attorneys who can handle these type of questions. Something will come into play. Like I use Legacy Shield. And by the way, if there are anyone who you don't have an attorney that you're working with and you want to make your own will, you can do that. They have templates that do that. And we can set up that template for you, and they convert things over in all 50 states, because you might be in New York right now and you make the will in New York, but 3 years from now, you may relocate to Georgia. And now your New York will is not really going to stand up in Georgia. So you might want to work with a company that does the conversions and so on in the various states. I'm not an attorney, so I have to make sure that I'm not trying to give legal advice, as well as not trying to, complicate anything or implicate myself or any one of my businesses or the Goshen Temple Seventh-day Adventist Church or the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventist Church or the conference. So we want to make sure that we encourage you to work with the people, that are trained and that are licensed to help you with this.
Any more questions? Okay, is there in the chat? Courtney, did you bring any questions from over here of the nation?
Yes. So we have a question here. It says, Not that one. Okay. What steps should be taken if someone mistakenly write a will and is being held up in the court? So the person write a will mistakenly and it's in the court. Is there any steps that can be taken to get it out of the court, or we have to allow the court to take its course?
Yeah, I believe it's going to have to take its course if it's already in the hands of the court. If, like I said, I'm not a lawyer, so that's a question for an attorney. If for some reason there is a rule where you can withdraw the will, the person who would have to do that would be the person who is administering this will. You know, they can probably, I'm assuming it makes sense, that they can petition the court to withdraw that will. But what kind of mistake? You know, if you have it there and you're already gone from here, whatever you have written there is what's, I don't know. You mean maybe I wrote somebody else's name? I intended to give my $1 million painting of Elvis Presley to my granddaughter, but I put my grandson name. I don't know what the mistake would be. But one of the things about that will prevent a will from standing up in court is what we call intent. Like the person who is making that will, remember I told you was 5 things. That was the last one that I couldn't think of at the time. The person must have the intention to give that house to that person, or that gold, that chest, or whatever they have, that asset to that person. They must have the intention. They cannot say, you know, I'm going to give my Mercedes Benz to my granddaughter, but they don't even own a Mercedes Benz after they die. See? So sometimes they may own something while in life and they made a will, but they never went back and reviewed that will. But at the time when they die, they don't really own that asset. So it's now going to be the executor. They have a big job because they now have to gather all of the assets wherever they are, whether it's a piece of land in Florida or wherever it is, and kind of do the very best that they can, and then send a report to the court as to how these assets are going to be distributed. Of course, the tax is going to go out first, the paying for the person's funeral and things like that. All of that have to be paid up, all the liabilities, before they distribute anything to anyone.
All right, that was awesome, folks. It was great having you here. Before you go, Northeastern is having something big on this coming Sunday. They're having an international virtual health expo. I think this is the 3rd or the 2nd one. And we have some of our most outstanding presenters there, like Dr. Neil Nedley. He's one of the foremost mental health specialists in our church. Dr. Ivan Shelton from 3ABN will be on. Dr. Thomas Jackson from Meat Ministry. You have Dr. Nash, reversing disease, diabetes and hypertension naturally, and Rico Hill. These are famous health experts. So it's this coming Sunday. It's a virtual health expo. 7 a.m. you have aerobic exercise. These are bonuses. And 7:30 you'll have breakfast and cooking demo. But the expo begins at the main part at 11:30. So this is coming Sunday. How do you get in contact? You go to Northeastern Conference website, events.northeastern.org. You register at events.northeastern.org. Sorry, Courtney, I don't have the flyer, so I can't put it there. But the Zoom is 876-1327-7656. 876-1327 1327
Recording stopped.
56. And the password is expo. Password is expo, lowercase. So this is this coming Sunday. I'll call the conference tomorrow, 718-291-8006. Ask for Help Ministry, or go to the website and the picture will be there. All right, so that's it, folks. If you were blessed by this presentation, I want you to put a B in the chat. If you are highly blessed, you put a HB. If you are blessed, put a B. If you're highly blessed, put an HB in the chat. We want to say thanks to Sister Anne-Marie again. I'm not seeing anything going in the chat yet. If you're blessed, put a B. If you're highly blessed, put an HB in the chat. We want to thank you very much, Anne-Marie, and I know some of you are in touch with her. Please keep in touch with her. I'm going to pray to close, and then we'll sing our theme song. And next week, we're going to talk about the heroes of faith. We'll be doing a lot of presentations from Hebrews 11, where the God's hall of faith is. We focus on the financial aspect this month. Next month is a faith month. So please come on, bring your friends and bring your families, and God's going to bless us real good. So Father, in the name of Jesus, we're thankful that you want us to prosper and be in health, even as our soul prospers. And I know that prosperity doesn't come by chance. It comes by following many of these principles that were shared here during this month. A word to the wise is sufficient. So help that we'll take and go back and apply them and go back and look over these presentations. I was really blessed. I myself going to look over some of them again. And may we have enough money that we can supply God's work here locally at Goshen and internationally. Where there's need for missionaries, we should be able to give. So bless us so that we can be a blessing. Thank you for those who were guests on our program tonight and on all the platforms. May they go realizing that you're a good God who want them to have a good life here, but above everything else, to spend eternity with Christ in heaven. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.
And I thank you, Anne-Marie. God bless you and keep you. All right, remember, God will take care of you.
Be not dismayed, whatever betide, God will take care of you. Beneath his wings of love abide, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. Through days of toil when heart doth fail, God will take care of you. When dangers fierce your path assail, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. All you may need, He will provide. God will take care of you. Nothing you ask will be denied. God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care care of you. No matter what may be the test, God will take care of you. Lean, weary one upon his breast, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. God will take care of you.
Have a good night, everybody. God bless you.
Good night, Pastor. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Good night,
Good night,
Pastor.
everyone. Good night, Pastor.